The conversation around the proposed creation of Anioma State has become one of the most politically charged issues in Nigeria today. What started as a seemingly legitimate push for equity and representation is now being questioned from multiple angles. Is it a genuine constitutional process or a carefully designed political strategy? At the center of this movement is Ned Nwoko, a senator who has consistently championed the creation of Anioma State, arguing that the Igbo-speaking people of Delta State have long been politically marginalized. According to him, Anioma State would correct historical imbalances and finally give the Southeast a sixth state, bringing it in line with other geopolitical zones in Nigeria. On the surface, the argument is compelling. Every other region in Nigeria has at least 6 states, except the Southeast, which has only 5. The creation of Anioma State would not only address this imbalance, but also reshape political representation, federal allocations, and regional influence. But here is where things begin to get complicated. Despite claims that the proposal has support from the presidency and has made progress in the National Assembly, critics argue that the process has been unusually slow and inconsistent. Bills have been introduced, consultations have been held, but there is no clear legislative breakthrough. For many observers, this raises a critical question. If there is genuine political will, why hasn't it been finalized? Some believe the answer lies in timing. Nigeria is a country where political promises often intensify around election cycles. The Southeast has long been a strategic voting bloc, and the promise of creating a new state could serve as a powerful tool to win support. In this context, the Anioma State proposal begins to look less like a constitutional priority and more like a conditional political offer, something to be delivered only if it serves electoral interests. This is the heart of the scam argument. Critics suggest that the federal government may be using the idea of Anioma State as leverage, dangling it before voters without any real intention of immediate implementation. The delays, the lack of clarity, and the shifting political alignments all seem to reinforce this suspicion. And then comes another major player in this unfolding drama, Ifeanyi Okowa. Okowa, a former governor of Delta State and a prominent political figure, has been widely reported to oppose the creation of Anioma State. His stance introduces a significant internal conflict because the proposed state would largely be carved out of Delta. Why would a leader from the region resist such a proposal? There are several possible explanations. One is political control. The creation of a new state would mean a redistribution of power, resources, and influence. Established political structures could be disrupted, and new leadership dynamics would emerge. For someone deeply rooted in the existing system, that kind of change may not be appealing. Another factor is strategic alignment. Nigerian politics often involves complex alliances that cut across party lines. If influential figures see the proposal as benefiting their opponents more than themselves, resistance becomes almost inevitable. This brings us to the recent developments in the senatorial primaries involving Ned Nwoko and Ifeanyi Okowa. Initial reports suggest that Okowa may have emerged victorious, although Nwoko has contested the results. If this outcome stands, it could significantly alter the trajectory of the Anioma State movement. Why? Because leadership matters in political advocacy. Ned Nwoko has been the face and driving force behind the push for Anioma State. If he is removed from the Senate, the movement could lose momentum, visibility, and legislative backing. On the other hand, Ifeanyi Okowa's reported opposition means that the strongest voice from that region in the Senate may not support the proposal at all. This creates a critical turning point. If Nwoko is indeed sidelined, the Anioma State project may face 3 possible futures. The first is stagnation. Without a strong advocate, the proposal could simply fade into the background, becoming another abandoned constitutional idea. The second is transformation. Other leaders from the Southeast or Delta North could step in to take up the cause, reframing the argument and building new alliances to push it forward. The third is politicization at a deeper level. The issue could become a bargaining chip in larger national negotiations, used selectively depending on shifting political interests. So, which way forward? For supporters of Anioma State, the path ahead requires more than relying on a single political figure. The movement must become broader, more institutional, and less dependent on individual politicians. Civil society groups, traditional leaders, and regional organizations need to play a more active role in sustaining the conversation. There is also a need for transparency. Nigerians are increasingly skeptical of political promises, especially those tied to elections. Clear timelines, legislative milestones, and open communication would go a long way in rebuilding trust. Finally, the issue must be framed not just as a regional demand, but as a national question of fairness and constitutional balance. If the argument remains narrow, it will be easier for opponents to dismiss it. But if it is positioned as part of a larger reform of Nigeria's federal structure, it gains broader legitimacy. In the end, the question remains: is Anioma State a genuine path to equity or a political mirage designed to win votes? The answer may not be clear today, but one thing is certain. What happens next, especially after the outcome of the senatorial primaries, will determine whether this idea becomes a reality or just another promise lost in Nigeria's political history.
Pakwando also. Merry Christmas. He's Deputy National President. Yes. Distinguished Senator. One Shike. We were our senators to my house. We were working.